the reason I use Eufy is because everything is stored locally on your own device. You don't have to pay any monthly subscription fees at all, unless you want monitoring. You don't have to pay to access your video feeds or any of your recordings. And, people are kind of sick and tired of, I think, of those subscription fees every single month. And I don't think it's right.
We'll kind of typically start a little background and where you came from and just kind of how you got in business and life, and pretty fluid. So
Sure. Cool. My name is Nick Sells. I'm from Columbus, Nebraska. I grew up there, went to high school, graduated. I attended a community college for 2 years and went to University of Nebraska at Kearney. I graduated there with a bachelor's of psychology, and moved to Omaha, looking for my first big boy job, I guess you could say. And then after that, I ended up working for Heartland Family Service for a little bit. So I did that. I was a case manager there. I basically placed people who were suffering from homelessness into a home. And then I ended up getting a job at Fusion Medical Staffing as a healthcare recruiter. Did that for a couple of years. And while I was doing that, I got into real estate a little bit and went to some of those real estate meetups here at Omaha, the Tanner. Went you there too, actually. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I was going to mention that. So you pretty much single-handedly put this podcast together.
Indirectly. It made the introduction.
Yeah. So you gave me Tanner's number. That's how I met Tanner, was through you.
Yeah.
And
crazy how stuff like that.
Yeah,
that's right.
Now we got this podcast.
Yeah. Well, you're welcome, I guess.
So with the $1 million name, Nick Sells.
Yeah.
What led you to go into psychology rather than, sales? Or
Oh, geez. I don't like salesmen, honestly. I don't know. I like the way, I like to talk to people, I guess. I guess, I don't know. I don't like to, I don't know. I like to understand the way people think and get to know people and stuff like that. And I felt like psychology was kind of, the route to do that, to be able to, communicate well with people and, kind of hear their story and grow and become a relationship builder with them and stuff like that. And, I was originally going to be a psychiatrist, so I was going to do that. And organic chemistry was not fun. So that was canceled pretty quickly. So, and then, the rest is kind of history. It just kind of, if you're a natural relationship builder in the first place, I guess you don't really need to go to school to do that. So, I guess it all worked out so far in the end, at least to this point. So,
what was the lore to UNK?
The lore?
Yeah. Like why UNK?
Oh, geez. I think it was, hopefully my parents aren't watching this. It was just enough for, they couldn't come up every day. But, once every couple weeks was nice. I'm not a partier, so there's no lore behind the parties or anything like that. But.
Yeah, because they say you can't spell drunk.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. I didn't partake in any of that. I was kind of a nerd, so a little bit of a goody two shoes on that part. But
gotcha. So you got into real estate.
Yeah.
What's kind of your background there?
Honestly, it just came down to I wanted to buy my time back, and I was just thinking like I hated waking up every single morning having to work for somebody else, and that was the thing. It's like, gosh, I'm spending so much time working for somebody else. I could be doing something myself, and real estate was kind of like the jump start. I didn't have a house yet. I was just starting to make a little bit of money outside of college. I'm like, might as well do the first thing and buy a house and actually do something that makes the house an actual investment, So
did you house hack?
I did. I house hacked, and Tanner was actually my real estate agent.
Okay.
So yeah. And I think, we were working together before you even had your license, or you were,
how'd you two meet?
At a meetup. Yeah. At one of the meetups. And I can't speak more highly of Tanner as far as that goes. I had a couple of real estate agents before, and Tanner comes in and he just kind of he jumps on the phone with me. He goes, if you ever need anything, I'm like, all right, I'll give Tanner a shot, see what happens. The guy had like 300 calls done, and like, it was like, I don't know, it was a lot. He did a lot of work for me, to find me a place, and he didn't even have his license yet. And I mean, that was it. It was no more communication with the other real estate agents. It was Tanner all the way. And,
Must have did 20 after that.
yeah, he slid me 100 before.
Yes, I paid for those advertisement.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. No, no, he did a good job. It took us like, I don't know, 9 months to a year to find me something. I mean, it was a tough market. It was back in like 2021, when the interest rates were really, really low and everybody was going so far over asking price. And I don't know what it is like today, but, yeah, it was rough. We put in a few offers over asking, and
Getting beat out.
we did every single time.
Well, and my perspective of when we met, you were an action taker. Like you looked at deals methodically. You were very, calculated and coordinated in what you were doing. And so with me, and just be clear, don't ever act as a real estate agent if you don't have your license. So we learned to underwrite deals together. And that was more of what we spent our time doing, was learning how to find deals and look at them, look at the numbers. And you just had to have a full understanding of how it would cash flow and your risk tolerance. And so through that, I learned a lot of, how to communicate things better. But then when it came time to put pen to paper, you were ready to go. You're like, no, I did the math. This one looks good. Let's do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the thing that I think a lot of people miss out on, is they like looking at deals. They're tire kickers.
Yep.
But you were very good to, if it wasn't a deal, then you weren't out there just to test, just to walk houses for the sake of walking houses.
Yep.
And so when we did find a good one, took action, and I'm pretty sure we acted on that one very quickly.
We did. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I know a few of them. I mean, I had a very specific set of like criteria that I had. And you knew what that criteria, I don't remember what it was now, but I know you knew exactly what I wanted, and I knew exactly what I wanted. If it didn't meet one of those check boxes, we didn't even walk it. We didn't do anything with it.
Yeah.
And when one came across, I mean, we put an offer in that day usually, or, immediately after we walked it. But yeah, no, it was a good working relationship for sure.
And I remember the criteria, not to the T, but I think people tend to look at the whole market and they say, I want a deal.
Mm-hmm.
And then they just hope that deal pops out and screams at them, but it doesn't.
Yeah.
But when you say, I'm looking for a duplex between this price and this price, I want this square footage, and I want it to be at least a 2-bed, 1-bath, whatever that criteria is, and you hone in on that, then you just wait for it to pop up, and it will pop up. And so as soon as it did, we were ready to go take action right away.
Yep.
And luckily we found one that didn't need a whole lot of work. I mean, you used the FHA loan,
Mm-hmm.
which was a great intro because relatively low cash down. And there were some hurdles, just, little inspection repairs.
He was out there on a Sunday painting with me and buying my family pizza. He was up on a ladder on a Sunday painting with me so we could pass FHA and so we could close. Above and beyond is what he was. So it was good.
So do you still have it today?
I do. I still live in it. I got my first tenants that I put in there. They've been living there for 2 years. They're a young couple. And they've been fantastic. Yeah.
You let them know that you're the landlord?
Yeah.
So
Yep.
they know.
Of course. Yep. They know that I own it. I did not let the first one know that I own it. I switched up kind of my style of the way I'm gonna, portray myself from on and now on. I'm just gonna be honest with them because it's a lot harder to hide that than it is just to say that I own it.
See, the reason I asked, a lot of people have a second party property manager, third party property manager, and utilize them just so they can kind of hide their own, because it just typically makes for a better process.
Yep. And I think if I had more units and I wasn't living next door, I think I would probably utilize that process a lot more. But since we run into them on a daily basis, it's like one of those things that's just like, I was just honest with them. I just said, hey, I'm the owner. I live next door. Let me know if you need anything. If I had more units, I think I would probably actually have a property manager that would just go through that process and delegate those processes out. But
so talk about your work and how you being a case manager, because they do a lot of placement of properties and I don't know all what they do, but it's one of the things they do.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, I didn't really have to do, when I was doing that, I didn't really have to do a lot of the finding the housing. It was more, navigating like the personal side of it. So like, we had a whole entire housing department that would just say, hey, this is available. Do you want to put this person in there? We just see if they were a match. I was more on the individual side versus the housing side. I honestly, I didn't really do a whole lot with that, if that makes sense, but
Gotcha. And then moving forward, you no longer work there
no.
by your shirt and your hat,
Yeah. Yep.
your advertisement.
Yeah.
So kind of take us to present day from there.
Yeah. So, after we closed on the duplex, after I got all set up and stuff, and, I got moved in, I had Tanner over to just kind of see what it looks, see what it's like. And I showed him that I had a bunch of smart home stuff. And he walked in there and he goes, holy cow. He was just like, I've always wanted to, get into this stuff and start a smart home company and just do something like that, get a little bit more involved with that. And, we tossed around the idea a little bit. We're like, yeah, we should definitely do that. And, I just got the position as a recruiter at Fusion. So, that was a sales job. And as you know, sales jobs are very time consuming, especially when you're just starting them. So it was one of those things that didn't really come to fruition until, probably about a year and a half, I don't know, 9 months ago, probably. I called Tanner up. I was a recruiter for a while, and I did well enough at that where I was able to, be like, hey, I can take 2 years, and this is what we did. I called him up. I said, man, like, let's go. Let's make this work. And Tanner and I kept in touch over the course of those 2 years or whatever, here and there. You'd help me out and we'd talk. But yeah, I hit him up, and yeah, we just started. We started this thing called Automation Destination, and it started out as just two guys wanting to kind of get into smart home stuff and help make other people's lives more convenient. And that's kind of what we did. We started that, and you speak on your half of that if you'd like.
Well, there's a part that I don't know if I've ever told you guys about, but I might have mentioned that around that time, I was really struggling, losing my pace in partnerships and in business. And so I was praying, just God give me opportunity. And that same time, I don't know if you guys can believe this, the same week, both of you reached out about these opportunities.
Crazy.
Ryan said he wanted to start this podcast, which we've been tossing around, and just figuring out. We'd been going to coffee together. Mm-hmm. And then I feel like you and I hadn't talked in months, and you just out of the blue said, hey, I saved up a bunch of money from my sales job, and I'm burnt out, and I just really want to start that business.
Mm-hmm.
The same week. And so God's grace alone. And it's cool for me because of the full circle of making the introduction. So I met Ryan, we did a deal together, and then we stayed in touch, became good friends, and then coming back around. And I truly think that this business, it's a skill set of yours that you have is more of an art form, because we do security cameras and, cool lights and stuff like that, but it's more the convenience of helping people live more efficient lives. And also it's the barrier. People have such a low trust for technology, right?
Mm-hmm.
That seeing how to secure themselves from, as much risk as possible and making it more attainable. I think that's the value that you truly provide.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I very much agree. And I think that's kind of why Tanner and I work so well together, is we kind of have the same vision, wanting to make it as easy to understand for everybody as possible and get it in as many hands as we possibly can, and not have it be a burden, have it be something that is actually a convenience to somebody's life. And I think that's probably the most rewarding thing, going back to like building relationships and stuff, is being able to put something in somebody's hands that they thought at first was just going to be kind of a gimmick and whatever, to something going, holy cow, like this is actually going to affect the way that I live. And how much impact that actually has on their life. I think that is like the most rewarding thing to me. If I could get paid $0 and see that in everybody, I would do that every day. And I would do that every day.
Please don't.
I won't. No, but if I had to, I would. Yeah, no, absolutely. No, I won't.
So what Freedom Fighters podcast, so I'll ask it from a freedom question. From a freedom standpoint, what can Automation Destination provide? And not just automate, if they're in Montana or, Florida, somewhere else listening to this, what can automating their home provide?
Yeah,
Freedom standpoint.
absolutely. Pretty much anything you can do inside your house while you're there, you'll be able to do outside of your house when you're not there. And the ability to turn on probably not bake a cake yet. There's some stuff out there, but
we have a smart oven, but we haven't tested it yet.
yeah, exactly. Also, Optimus from Tesla's, they have stuff going on, not quite there
I
yet.
think that
Maybe.
the whole smart oven, smart appliances, stuff like that, it's more of a safety thing. Like if you leave the house and forgot that you left it on, it'll notify you so you can shut it off.
Yep.
More so than, preheat the oven while you're gone. But we'll see. We'll let you know.
Yeah.
Anyhow, we're back to my question.
Yeah.
Rudely interrupted.
No, you're good. I think, being able to turn on and off your lights while you're not home to look like you are home or simulate that you're home is something that's huge. You got somebody out there staking outside your house, staking out your house, and your lights are turning on and off. You're a lot less likely to get broken into whenever it looks like there's, the kitchen's on and the kitchen turns off, and then the bedroom turns on and then the bedroom turns off. You're less likely to get broken into for that.
Didn't help Macaulay Culkin on Home Alone.
Yeah, right. That is true. Yeah, right.
But even the door locks, garage door, like the peace of mind of knowing all those things, that's great. We went on a vacation last year, and this is right after, and this is also part of how we started the business, is I had all these smart plugs and smart devices, but they had maybe one function. Like I could turn something on or off, and I didn't know how to do the routines and all that stuff. And so Nick kind of coached me. So when we were gone, we had that where our lights were on, coming on and off and all that stuff. And it just does provide a little peace of mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's fantastic. And you get to the point where, you use it so much that you can't see your life without it anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, it becomes a part of your life. I mean, you end up walking in. I walked into my camper before and I'm like, Alexa, turn on the light. I'm in my camper. It doesn't work. I'm sure you've had that experience.
Oh yeah. I've been touring houses before and I've tried doing it.
Yep.
And it's such a routine that, that the little things. So what we found is that by implementing these automations, you gain back 30,000 hours of your life per year.
Mm-hmm.
That's how many weeks a year of just simple things that you don't realize. Like, we go upstairs and go to bed and forget that we left all the lights on downstairs. I have an Alexa device in my room. I can just say, hey, shut off the lights downstairs. There's 2 minutes of my life back, which doesn't seem like much, but over time it adds up.
Yeah.
All these little things.
Yep. Absolutely. And I think it's wonderful. And I feel like everybody should have the ability to experience that at least a little bit. I know there's a lot of people that are kind of skeptical out there, but, I think giving it a shot, I think it would, really bring a lot of convenience to their life. And maybe they'll realize that it isn't so bad.
Well, and talk about the loyalty to any one brand or another Alexa better than Google is better than.
They all do about the same thing. It really depends on the environment that you're in and what you like. If you're, if you already have a few Alexas hanging around and you have an account, I'd probably just go into the Alexa ecosystem. If you have some Google stuff laying around and you like Google, if you got Google Android phones, maybe go into the Google ecosystem. It just kind of depends on what, you kind of prefer, if that's the kind of, it just depends what you prefer. That's what it comes down to. And, personally, I like the Alexa, just because I feel like that's what I use. For me, it's simpler. I don't have an Android phone, so it's not like I have, Google Assistant or anything like that on my phone. So it just made sense to run with the Alexa, and that's what I did.
But you can work with what anyone has.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Like I said, they all set up about the same. They all have about the same, functionality. One's better in one aspect than another, but then the other one makes up for it. It just kind of depends on what your goal is. But if you're just looking at general smart home stuff, like turning on and off your lights or setting up routines, they do about the same thing.
So you and Tanner talk, you have this idea. You say, I got roughly 2 years of runway. Let's make this happen. Talk about some of the growing pains, startup pains of starting a company, bootstrapping a company.
Sure.
And just kind of life of thereof.
Yeah. I think the main thing was just kind of figuring out how the heck are we going to get our first lead? That's still kind of like our biggest thing right now is just like, how do we get the next lead? How do we get the next lead? And at least that's my perspective, is the lead generation is like the toughest thing. We've been, I've been thankful enough that we've been able to get some referrals. So that's awesome. But
Most of the business is referral.
yeah, it is. Yeah, referrals.
Referrals from what kind of?
Pretty much. I mean, after every single meeting or installation that I do, I say, hey, do you know anybody that'd be interested in anything like this? I mean, we do pay for referrals too, but I don't want that to be the selling point. I want it to be because I did a good job. But yeah, just anybody that we've worked with, really. And then we got a few, people calling from Google. That was kind of cool. But yeah.
Yeah. And so now it's rated the number one smart home installation company,
Yep.
One of one.
Well, no, there's
a few. Yeah.
I mean, there's some bigger companies. Nebraska Furniture Mart has a smart home installation team. I mean, there's a few other smaller companies, but if you go to Google rankings, like it's the number one.
Mm-hmm.
So it was pretty cool to see us come up number one, and then Nebraska Furniture Mart number like 7.
Yeah. Yep.
But I mean, I think that one of the things is cameras are instantly hit. Everyone wants cameras, and getting them off of the Ring devices.
I was going to ask specifically about that.
Yeah, because
So,
well, I mean, you can talk more about the specifics of it, but I think the testament to the quality of product that Nick's installing everything, and I don't have anything to do with the installs or the hands-on stuff. Nick handles all the technical side, but I look at the numbers, and we do have a guarantee on the products. And how many people have we had come back and say,
Hardly ever. And if it was a malfunction of the product, and we fixed that. That's not any.
well, we haven't had a single person in almost 2 years come back and say that they don't like it.
Correct.
It's either they need help understanding it more, or the product has a deficiency and we replace the product.
Correct. Yep.
But yeah, if you want to touch on how it is that you're vetting products, because, I know you're not beholden to any one brand, but there are specific ones that you'll advise that people go to away from, Vivint or Eufy, or not Eufy, Ring.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, personally, I only want to install things that I would put in my own home. I mean, if somebody is already, attached to like a brand, that's fine. I'll work with it, whatever they want. It's the customer I will take care of the customer, whatever they want to do. But, if it's somebody coming in with a blank slate, they have no idea, I'm going to recommend every single thing that I use in my personal house. So, whether that be like Govee lights for like light bulbs, or TP-Link switches for smart switches. I'm going to use your camera example. The reason I use Eufy is because everything is stored locally on your own device. You don't have to pay any monthly subscription fees at all, unless you want monitoring. You don't have to pay to access your video feeds or any of your recordings. And people are kind of sick and tired of, I think, of those subscription fees every single month. And I don't think it's right for people to have to pay to view their own recordings on their own devices. So that's why I like to push the Eufy stuff. Or Reolink is really good too. I use Reolink stuff for cameras. They don't have to charge a fee either. But yeah, no, I think that's kind of where I get my preferences.
So it's just buy once, cry once.
Yeah.
You're done with it. So
Correct.
versus Ring, I don't know what it costs, $15 a month
Something,
or whatever,
yep.
whatever it costs.
Yep. Correct.
But there's the better quality cameras for the same startup price. Like the cost of the cameras is the same as Ring or Vivint or other things, without the subscription fee. So over if you look at the lifetime value, I mean, you're saving hundreds of dollars a year on those subscription fees.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yep.
And I mean, my biggest litmus test is, can my wife understand how to use the software to a point where she's comfortable? If she has a business meeting and, wants to check in on the kids or whatever. And Eufy is the one system that she is extremely comfortable with. She's tried Ring. We've tried a couple other off-brand stuff. And a lot of them, what I don't like is they store in the cloud too, and they're on Chinese servers. And so I'm like, I'll put my tinfoil hat on, but
What's Eufy? How's it store that? Is it cloud?
No, it's directly on a home base, right? It's a storage device that goes directly into there's a little white box that sits, by your internet router. And there's a hard drive in there, and it pushes the closed signal right to that hard drive.
it's encrypted, right?
Correct. Yep.
And then you can see it on your phone or?
Correct. Yep. It has to decrypt it for it to, it says decrypting to view storage.
Yep.
It has to decrypt it to view the storage. So yeah, it's fantastic. I stand by it, and I use it on my personal stuff. So
Talk about the things that people like to see at the trade shows and all that.
As far as,
Cameras are the biggest selling point.
Yep.
Because it's the highest value for what you get. But then when, there's been clients that want to do other types of products, we've done a number of trade shows, and it's usually flashy lights, what I've noticed.
yep,
To get people's attention, but the RoboVac and the smart coffee maker and stuff like that.
yeah. So whenever we have another home show coming up in end of April or end of February, early March, that we're going to be doing
Right after this gets posted.
Yeah.
Not too many comments.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, no, they like the flashy lights. We usually set our tent up with, we have Gobi curtain lights that we have. Basically, it's a strand of lights that hangs down, and it essentially creates a picture on the curtain of lights out of LEDs. It's pretty cool if you see it from a distance. Yeah, we got a couple of those. Got flashy little string lights that we run around. We basically set our tent up as if it were a home. So they walk in and they work through their morning routine. So they say, the wake word of the device, good morning. And then it turns on their lights, it turns on their TV, it reads them their weather, tells them what the traffic report for work is, tells them to have a good day. And then they just kind of work their way around the tent as if it was their day. And I think that's been I think a lot of people like that, and seeing how that could actually influence the way that they work through their day,
Yeah, the things like, when they say, Alexa, I'm leaving, and they're walking out of the house and it goes through it. And the way that he has the routine set up is it's talking them through all the routines. If he was to set it up in someone's house, it wouldn't tell them what they're doing. It would just do the steps, but it locks the doors, it shuts the lights off, it lowers the temperature in the house. It does a whole number of things, and you can put delayed functions on. Like it is mind blowing how much functionality you have with this stuff. And it's like every single one of those steps might take me 30 seconds to go make sure I run upstairs and shut the light off, and then run over here and, but just one command out the door locks everything up.
Yep. I know. And my parents were kind of skeptical with it at first, but, now their smart home stuff just keeps growing and growing and growing. They love it. They use it every single day.
They work the trade shows. They're the best salespeople you have.
They do work the trade shows. Yeah. They're great. So they've been awesome to us, and great spokespeople, because we got a lot of stuff in their house. But no, it's been really good. Yeah.
So outside of lead gen, anything else for a startup?
I think just kind of figuring out like a name. How we're going to build the business. It took us like 5 months to get up and rolling, because we wanted to make sure that we did all the work up front to know how much this is going to cost us, and
pricing. And
yeah.
Were you still working at this time?
No, I was not. No, I was not. No, we were basically just focusing 5 months on that. We had a lot of phone calls doing that. So
yeah. And for the startup months, Nick is a much more organized person than I am. And so it was building SOPs, policies, that's what SOP is, but building SOPs and procedures.
What's an SOP?
Yeah. Standard operating, piss off.
yeah.
So building the SOPs and the spreadsheets and everything we needed to get the pricing guidance, because basically built the models as if we had a full team of employees, with Nick doing, all the work up front, building in a manager's pay and an employee pay and all that stuff, and the pricing guidance, but still having it be competitive enough. Because the biggest objection that people subconsciously have is, why can't I just do this on my own? And that's the biggest thing. And it's more for the convenience. And so that's why the higher price homes and, even doing some commercial deals, it's a convenience of time, just having someone go set it all up at once. And then the ongoing, lifetime value of the customer is going to be routine maintenance, is going in and helping them set up more convenient routines and just making little tweaks, which has no more inventory issues, or I don't say issues, but we're not upselling more products. It's more just the service of maintaining it and keeping it convenient.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I know, kind of living Gretna, growing, previous census was less than 5,000 people, and this one coming out, I think the town's already grown to like 10, 15,000, and it's projected to grow 80,000 or something the next few years. But with that, they're building a lot of apartment complexes and, all that stuff projected in the near future. From an apartment complex standpoint, some of these nicer ones, newer ones, they use smart home technology. What if I have an apartment? What would I, if I was building a Class A brand new apartment, what would I look for to put in there that would help me and also help sell the apartment?
Yeah, absolutely. I think smart lighting is a good one. There's the ability to put a camera on the outside of your door. It's almost like the peephole. So they can put a camera on the peephole in place of the peephole, essentially. So it can record. It can watch packages, that kind of stuff. People can buy those on their own, and you can have them installed and just have the customer, or the client or the tenant, I should say, just sign in whenever they move in, and then they can use that for the term of their tenancy, and then sign out. And I mean, it protects their packages. It provides, it prevents or should lower, package theft. So that's cool. I would say, I mean, even maybe smart speakers built into the ceiling, in different rooms. That might be cool. People like their multi-room audio.
I've seen some Class A apartments where they're starting to do geofence lock systems and stuff like that, where, typically in a Class A, you have a badge and you badge in or stuff like that, whereas people can just have their phone and the way the geofencing works, it knows if you're in the vicinity of the door, so you can't just unlock it from far away, versus some of the residential locks where, you can give people one-time passcodes and stuff like that. It's relatively similar.
So basically like a car does. A lot of cars are geofence locks and starts and all that stuff.
Right. Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, those are remote, but it's similar.
Someone that doesn't understand what geofencing might be.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say, thermostats are a big one too. Being able to control, set the temperature of your apartment before you get back home. I mean, that's a nice one. That kind of thing. I mean, not everybody runs on the same schedule every single day. So,
well, and then, from the landlord perspective too, just being able to have visibility of the wear and tear on the units. I can't tell you how many times we've walked into a unit as investors, and they've got the windows open with the heat turned up to 80.
Yeah.
And, whereas if you had smart thermostat system, that's, you'd be able to monitor those things and, at least address issues before they come issues.
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing, we partnered with Omaha Water Pros. So we do smart water shutoffs, and we've had a couple of customers that have already used it. We've had a couple.
Can you talk about how that system works?
That's what I was going to ask.
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, it can detect if there's a one drip per hour in the pressure side of your water. So it can tell if you're, it learns your routines and how much water you use normally. So it takes a week to learn that. And then after that week, if you use more than that, you're going to get a notification in your phone saying, hey, you have excessive water usage, or hey, we did a micro leak test and it said that, hey, your pressure is down by whatever. So you have a leak in your house and you have to call a plumber. And
how's that tell difference between me running bath water and our garden hose and a pipe bust?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So that's where it learns your routines. That's why it takes it that week. If you're going to be standing out there for 45 minutes in the summer, and you did the test in the wintertime, you might have to have it relearned. Yeah, it might be one of those things where you have to have it relearn or recalibrate it, so know what your summer is like.
So my main reason for this, selfishly, is I got a fourplex that the main water shutoff is in the bottom unit. And so if there's a leak in the upper unit and the bottom unit people isn't there, I would ideally like to be able to shut off the water.
Yeah, that's exactly.
But with it being 4 units and people move in, move out, I was kind of wondering, what's the feasibility of something like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd have to talk to our plumber, but I don't see he does stuff like that all the time.
Does it need internet?
For you to shut it off remotely, yes, but no, for it to work properly, no. For you to look at it from your phone, yes. But it will detect and do water, shut off without internet.
I would assume you could put one in each unit, so you wouldn't have to have it on the main. On a single family house, you'd put the main.
Yep.
But after it branches off, it'll learn the pattern of each individual unit.
Yeah. Yep. If you could find a way to put it right after it branches off on some of those other units, yeah, you could probably put like 4 of them on there.
Especially if they all have their own water heaters.
Correct. Yep.
Stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it might be something to look at fancy.
Well, and the biggest reason that we've had people keep coming back for them is because you get an insurance discount when you put those things in.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then the more, I think, especially working with investors, they look at like, what's my ROI on immediately getting this stuff? But it's a combination of a bunch of things. Like we have an apartment building where insurance, wants us to redo the roof. They want us to do fire suppression systems, stuff like that. But they'll give us relatively larger discounts the more of these things we implement. So if you put smart shut off and then also do a new roof and then also have a monitored fire alarm system or a monitored camera system, then insurance looks at that and says that, okay, they are all on a calculated risk basis. And every single one of those things factors in a different level of risk, where if you have a monitored camera system and like you said, you can pay for a third-party service to monitor it the same way ADT does, but I mean, a fraction of the cost, then they realize that, your house is relatively lower liability to them and they'll let you pay less in insurance, which has an extreme cost savings, especially if you're looking at rental properties. I mean, that difference in, $300 to $500 a year, that could be a huge, cash flow difference
Mm-hmm.
with a single family.
Definitely.
Yeah. We were talking previous episode with Josh Connor and talking about insurance and how it's just getting astronomical, and
Mm-hmm.
anything you save a little bit here, a little bit there goes a long way. So, and not, you mentioned ROI on it, but I would say return on headache too.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've had a water issue, 2 winters ago, where we had a big freeze. It basically got so cold that the heater shut off. Once the heater shut off, obviously the water started to freeze. With a 2-month headache or something like it's just all that extra work that you're not getting paid for.
Yeah.
And
Well, and I mean, anyone who's invested in real estate knows that water is the number one enemy.
yes,
And if there is a way that something was to happen, granted, it's a minor inconvenience if you have it on the main and, one of the units, has a water a pipe burst or something like that, but it would shut off the water of the whole property. You're going to get phone calls right away that something's going on, even if the internet's not hooked up, telling you, hey, the water got shut off, which, yeah, sure, it stinks. Maybe you got to give a little rent credit to your tenants, but it beats the tens of thousands of dollars of damage that one pipe burst would do just running constantly into the property. I mean, you could lose the whole house in, a day.
yeah, it's I just rehabbed, so it was a duplex, so that had this water thing. I just rehabbed one of the units. We had to rip up the bathroom floor to get to the pipe. Luckily, there was only one pipe in there that froze because it was on the second story, and it's one of the pipes coming vertical into the bathroom. But the lower unit, there was quite a few. I had to open up a few walls, and I mean, ended up working out in the long run, but it was still 2-3 months of headache. So
Oh yeah, we had a property, a single family house where someone came and stole all the copper out of it. It was vacant. We were showing it to sell. Had no idea. We didn't have any showings scheduled for a weekend or something like that. So we go back and check on it the next week, and the entire basement is flooded. Up above the water heater, above the what do you call it, the electrical box. They absolutely flooded. Whereas having one of these devices could have saved us from probably $40,000 worth of damage.
Mm-hmm.
So we've seen the real world impact of not having these kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Nick talked about not being a salesperson, and I tell him this constantly, but this is why he's good at what he does, is because he doesn't go in and push something and say like, upsell, upsell, upsell. It's, what do you need and what would make your life more convenient?
Mm-hmm.
Because of the genuineness of that. That's why we've, been doing it.
Yeah. I think, there's no point in trying to sell somebody something that they don't need or want. I think that is the most I don't like that kind of stuff. So I feel like it's kind of scummy to do that. But, I go in there and most of the time I say, hey, look, I'm here to do what you want me to do. If you want me to give you ideas, I'll give you ideas. If you turn them down, I don't care. It doesn't bother me any. You want something later? We can talk about it later. We'll figure it out. You can always add this stuff later. It's not a huge deal. So, and that's kind of how we run.
yeah, my philosophy on sales is if you wouldn't sell it to your grandma or your mom or your dad or something like that, you probably shouldn't be trying to upsell it to somebody else.
Correct.
Yeah, it's kind of
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
general rule.
Yeah. But I definitely want to hear more about how you discern when the right time to step away from that cushy, high paying job was to make the leap. And then obviously there's a lot of anxiety with that. You see that bank balance depleting down. Obviously now it's on an upward trend as the business grows. I mean, I think this last month was our most profitable month yet, and every month has been more profitable than the previous. So, but it's not always up trend.
No. It's scary to step away, and yeah, I mean, you get like used to that lifestyle where I mean, you get comfortable. I should say you get comfortable in that lifestyle where you're making enough money to go on a couple trips a year and buy some nice things. But then you step away from that, all of a sudden your income is immediately zero. I mean, it's scary. And I mean, I don't know. I mean, as far as like dealing with it, it's basically like having to go back to live as a college kid again, and just make sure that everything you purchase is with intent and not with out of because you want it or it looks cool. I think that's kind of what I had to step back to a little bit. So
well, and you like your toys,
I do. Yeah, I do. I got a bunch of personal electric vehicles, which are like electric scooters, electric unicycles, a one wheel electric Segway with a go-kart attached, just a bunch of stuff. We use those all the time for door hangers and stuff. Door knocking. Yeah.
Do you know how the guy that created Segway died?
Did he fly off a cliff on a Segway?
Flew off a cliff on a Segway.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. True story.
That's crazy. Yeah. Wow. Going out, doing what he loved, I guess, but not. Yeah.
He was in England, like Portsmouth, England or something like that is where he's from. And it's on the water or something, my understanding, and flew over a cliff and no longer with us.
Yeah. That's insane.
Yeah.
Wow.
Random.
Yeah. Fun fact.
Yeah.
So fun, but
the fun fact for the day.
Well, and there was a time when you started a brief, small business, just trying to teach people how to use those things.
Yep.
What was the sticking point with that? And
honestly, it was just something. It was more of a brainstorm of like, I got to get something up and rolling. I didn't even know exactly what I wanted to do when I left Fusion. Honestly, it was one of those things. Like I had a few ideas. I was throwing a few things at the wall, hoping it was sick. I mean, I knew I had the thing in the back pocket with you and me. And I wanted to explore that. And that was the second thing that I did. I mean, I was really into, like I said, the personal electric vehicle thing. And it just made so much more sense to go in and do like a smart home deal. And that's what I did. But, no, the personal electric vehicle thing, it was more of an idea. It was more just to see how we create a website. It was more like me testing how to create a website and do that kind of stuff. But
it didn't serve no purpose, and learn the lessons there. And
yep, exactly.
Applicable to the next venture.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
Most people don't make it big on their first startups.
Sure. Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, where are you at now? What's kind of the future for not just you, but you guys, I guess?
Yeah. I mean, I'll let you talk on that if you'd like, or I'm. All right.
Don't fight over it, guys.
Yeah. Right. I think obviously just want to continue to grow. We want to keep getting into the hands of as many people as we possibly can, and we just got to kind of find a way to get out there. You know what I mean? And referrals are great, but like we want to find a way to continue to have a steady stream of referrals or people coming in just some way or another. And I think that's kind of like our biggest hurdle right now and trying to get over. So I think once we get to that point, I think things will be, only up from there. I know that the idea that we have and what we've been doing has been working great. It's just, we got to get out there in front of more people and keep continuously grow. So
yes, I think the goal right now is bringing on a team. We're starting to talk to people about building a team of installers and a team of salespeople. And so as we ramp up our marketing dollars and get more exposure, then there's only so much one person can do in a day, and that's where you get to learn the delegation and buy back your time.
Mm-hmm.
And I told Nick that my goal for this year is to overwhelm him to the point where he has to hire people.
Yep. Yeah. And yeah, that's kind of the goal, would be to be able to have me have to step away, which would be tough. It's tough to watch the baby go, you know what I mean? And kind of have to like let other people take care of your stuff. But I know Tanner and I will watch it kind of like a hawk in a way. So
Well, and I send him, Dan Martell clips all the time, and just, Alex Hormozy and stuff, and just breaking those barriers. And he's very open to these new ideas and stuff, and embracing things that are uncomfortable. And, we've tested so many different kinds of marketing campaigns, from pay-per-click ads to magazines to brand deals with TikTok influencers. And, what are some of the other ones that we've tried?
Home shows. I mean, but
Shows.
yeah.
Yeah. And so we're learning what's more fruitful, and what, tracking the metrics of how many leads come from each avenue. And so now it's Alex Hormozy has this thing about, if you have three marketing campaigns and you test each of them with $1,000, and then one of them shows more results, then you put $10,000 into that one avenue, and it'll give you a $30,000 return. And so, but what people do is they look at the 1,000, they feel like a $2,000 loss. And I think that's kind of what we're more opening up to, is we're finding the magazine didn't yield any results. What it did give us is exposure. So there's one person that came to us from a referral that said, "Oh, I saw you guys in this magazine." Can't really count that as a lead from the magazines. Was it worth the thousands of dollars we spent on it? Probably not. And so it's just figuring out those things, and just bob and weave, and just try and figure out what works.
Yep.
Have y'all tried like different things at different times? So meaning magazine doesn't work today, but try it again in 6 months and it works. Or, we say what you got to get in front of someone 7 times before they even buy from you, typically, unless it's referral. Referrals are stronger, but
I think some of the things we've sat down with a couple of different, probably 4 or 5 different magazine companies, and many of them, what we find is that their target market is accessible to us without needing to pay them. And so it's like they might have eyes and ears for a particular reason, but people aren't typically looking in those places for smart home installation. They're looking in them for painters, or for, a plumber, or a contractor. And so Nick spent a lot of time going out building relationships with those guys. And when they find something that's synergistic, then, we get the referrals that way. So
very nice.
Yeah. I think if we were to do it again, like what the magazine we did, it was more just kind of it's just kind of sitting on a shelf in a dentist office, or like a high-end eye doctor office or something like that. I think if we were to explore that avenue again, it would probably be more targeted, like somebody's paying for a subscription for the magazine, so they're actually going to be more apt to look at the magazine versus just, I'm sitting in a waiting room, I'm going to look at something because I'm bored. You know what I mean?
But those ones don't typically get thrown away. It's not like they look at it one time, toss it. They sit in those waiting rooms for a while until the next subscription comes. And so we know that may yield some results in the future. And if we start seeing leads come in from it, then we know it's, worthwhile to double down on it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think right now it's just testing all the different avenues and see what works.
Yeah.
Yeah. I could tell you the last time I read a magazine.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
Most people don't. I mean,
yeah.
I
did find out that it is a lot of the older generation that still does.
Okay.
So,
but then what's the issue with that generation as far as smart technology?
They probably, they didn't grow up with it, so they're a little bit scared of it. So it's one of those things. So
yeah, I even have a smartphone.
Yeah.
Potentially.
Yep. Exactly.
I think that's a perfect example of just finding these test markets and figuring out what works. Because if the target customer is, fits a certain criteria, maybe they're younger millennials, buying their first home, so on, they're probably not going to be looking at magazines. And so it's kind of, you're fishing in a pond where there's no fish, that are going to bite.
Yeah, pretty much.
So what's next? What are you looking for? Tanner kind of alluded to growing so much that you need to hire somebody. What does that look like? If you had to hire somebody today, what would that be? Would it be a manager? Would it be salesman? Would it be installer? What's on the horizon? Is it an admin person to take over?
Yeah.
Back-end support?
Yeah. Honestly, we haven't really talked a whole lot about that, but I know in the beginning we kind of talked about hiring somebody as if they were going to be in a manager role, and then have them kind of eventually take over what I do, and oversee it essentially. I know we've talked about that in the past, where we hire and then we hire the salesman later, or like the techs later.
Yeah, I handle more of the back end stuff, and my philosophy on it is hiring on someone who has an understanding of this stuff, but maybe doesn't know how to tie it all together, and then taking our systems and being able to implement those and having Nick oversee them until they are at the point where they can oversee other people. The alternative is finding someone who's a very good manager and maybe doesn't understand the tech at all, but is a good people person and can bring on and build a strong team. And so finding that candidate is a very specific, type of candidate. And we have one person right now who has a very good sales background, understands the tech, and just wants to learn how we build the systems. And so that's one that we're kind of nurturing. But the one thing that I'll say is Nick is very good about not being in a hurry to go anywhere. It's, we're very slow to build this system. Like we had all of the back end, all of the underwriting, the pricing models, all the SOPs, how we're going to do everything. The bank was set up, the LLC, everything A to Z was set up before we even contacted our first lead. Whereas I've had, other ventures where you just jump in and build parachute, and so with
AKA this podcast.
Yes. But I mean, I think that because we built that framework, it's like when you're building a house, you build the foundation first, right? And so that foundation was ready. So when we started taking on clients, it didn't look like we were just trying to figure it out or two guys with a hobby that, we had an established business that had a product, had a vision, and it made it a lot easier to start closing people. And that, immediately took off.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
So you kind of built the whole thing instead of going out with your MVP, minimal viable product.
Correct.
You took a different route.
Yep.
Then
we had an idea. We knew what we were going to say before we got to the customer's house, essentially, because we've had those conversations. We kind of knew how we were going to operate. It wasn't me going out there and just flying off the seat of my shorts just to get a sale. Yeah, I like to be more methodical. I know you're like that too, as far as like analytics, and want to make sure that everything's in place. So yeah, it just kind of worked well like that.
Building a system that, is so simplified that someone can come in and take it over like a playbook, and they know exactly what they should be doing. They know how many people they should be contacting every week and, so on.
So we'll kind of hijack this conversation and take it on another tangent, if you will. But it's funny, the more I get in business and talk to other business owners, and they think their business should be worth X and it's worth Y. Typically, it's because of what you just said there. There is no standard operating procedure. There is no manager in place to replace that owner. Like they are the system. They are the manager. They are they're everything. So it's not like you can go in and buy the company and then you just take over day one. Like, so they might be a 2.5 multiple, 3 multiple versus you have the systems, you have the processes, and you have the people in place, and now you're a 5 multiple, a 6 multiple. And so your company went from a 3 multiple to a 6 multiple. That's double in price. Like it's quite a bit different. So it's, building a parachute on the way down can be good. Having the systems and processes is definitely better for the long-term success of business and wealth. So
yeah, definitely.
And I think one of the big things is typically those businesses are solopreneurs. They have a skill, but their skill is their asset. And the big thing with that is they get hurt or, market slows down, whatever, they're out of business. Whereas setting up a business intended to employ people, and that was one of the things we talked about in our, end of year, conversation, was I really want to employ 1,000 people in the area. Like that is a goal of mine. And what I said is that the people who would be a phenomenal candidate that could really change their families' lives might be serving tables or they might be washing cars, but if we give them the opportunity to come and, learn the business side of a skill that they have, then we could change their lives. And I think that's something that I'm becoming more and more passionate about, is how important it is to employ those types of people, because, that's why we all do it.
Mm-hmm. How do you find those people?
That's the magic question. I think since post-COVID, it's very hard to find good help. And, but luckily we have a very unique product. And I think that attracts people with a little bit more of a creativity bone than just, someone who's working an assembly line. And so being able to find the people that have that kind of artistic talent of being able to see a complex scenario and find the right solutions, we provide them with the solution book, and they find the problems and find which of our solutions fit into each problem. And so it's systemizing it as much as you can without, to put it this way, if you went to a fast food restaurant and they had 85 menu items, people would be overwhelmed. They never know what to buy. But you go
Cheesecake
I was
Factory.
going to say the same thing.
but you go to a McDonald's and they have 9 menu items, and that's kind of what we've done. Is the world of tech is so vast. It's like a swimming pool of different companies, different products. Everyone has their own different things. And Nick has enough of an understanding of it to condense it down and say, for the things that you want, these are the ones that I'd recommend. And I think that's as simple as you can put it.
Mm-hmm.
So how does AI come into play with automation?
That is going to be the next big thing. I think, I think AI will, as of right now, I don't know any like smart assistants that have adapted to AI yet. Like, I don't think the Alexa has, I'm sure they have little parts of them that are, that have AI.
Well, Apple just came out
with
last week with Apple Intelligence.
Yeah.
They officially released, or at least on my device.
And to a point, all of these systems are AI. Like we've had Siri, it's all AI.
Yeah.
It's just now the enhanced learning.
Yeah. It's a general intelligence, the artificial general intelligence. And I think once that becomes more of a prominent thing in your, along with like your Alexa device or your Google device, I think that is going to be huge, because now you're not going to just say, you're not going to be stuck to just one phrase. You're going to go, you're going to be talking to your kid. You're going to say the Alexa word, and you're going to say, oh, I need my thermostat set to this. Oh, and also remind me to do this at this time. Oh, and then you're yelling at your kid again, and you're going to go back to it. And it's going to catch everything that you said, knowing that you're talking to your kid. And that's where it's going to be a huge difference, because it's not going to go beep, sorry, I didn't understand what you said. It's going to say, okay, got it. And it's going to do everything you just listed. And it's coming. It's coming. I don't think we're quite there yet, but in the next couple of years, it's going to be a big thing. And it's going to,
as a side tangent, one of the funniest things since being in business with Nick is because he has Alexa devices anywhere in the house. Every time that we have a business call, which we do all our stuff over Zoom, he like censors himself before saying it, because I can say, because if he says anything, or if I say anything, relatively similar to Alexa, all of his stuff is like, what?
Yeah, it's all this doing.
So funny story. We had to change our Alexa code word in our house because all three of my daughters' names starts with an A.
Yep.
And so we would like yell for the kids to come, and it would be like, what do you need?
Yep.
So the kids would come, but Alexa was right there.
Yep.
So that's an example of something that most people don't even know that you can do.
Yeah.
They don't know that you can change.
Yeah.
So we had to, because it just kept going off all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So, one thing we talked a little bit about the sole entrepreneur stuff like that. No pressure, but what's been the difference about going into it in a partnership versus, there's a lot of pros and cons to going solo versus partnership.
Just the fact that you can kind of like, I can call Tanner and be like, hey, look, man, I'm going to be on vacation this week, or I'm going to be out. Can you screen the calls, or can you just kind of pay attention more to that? Or if you need, and it's more just like having somebody to kind of like rely on, and he can kind of do the same for me too. It's just like, we can rely on each other. The whole business doesn't have to shut down just because one person is out or one person is sick or whatever the deal is, just having somebody to kind of, rely on, like kind of like what you're saying before. It's like, if that person gets hurt, if they're like the skill-based person, the whole business shuts down because they can't work. Whereas like, you can kind of screen the calls and say, hey, look, Nick will be back at this time to do this or whatever, like when I go get married or whatever, you can kind of screen that. Whereas like the business doesn't have to shut down, and you don't have to stop conversations with your customers, I would say. And just being able to leverage each other's networks, I think. I think good things like that come in, like good relationships come with other people's networks as well. And you can tap into other people's networks. And I don't think it's always the best decision. I think you can do it, but I don't think it's the best decision to try to grow a company by yourself. It's always good to try to, build relationships and have partnerships, because then you can benefit them, they can benefit you, and your company will just grow that much faster.
what's the saying? Go farther along, go better together. I don't, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, yeah. I'm thinking of what you're talking about.
I can't really think of it,
Mhm.
but that's
What it applies. Yeah.
that's what reminded me when you were speaking that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's the whole 1+1 = 3.
Yeah.
You know, if I have 20% knowledge in the tech side and he has 80, then you're filling those roles. And maybe I have 60% of the knowledge on the business side and he has the 40. And but it's not always like an equal benefit and or not equal compensation. Sometimes it's he has a 60% understanding of something and I have a 60% understanding of something. So, you know, together we can figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's navigating those challenges. And I would advise anyone be very careful of who you go into a partnership with, because they can end very badly. And we did the things in the beginning to set the expectations, and this is my roles and responsibilities. This is your roles and responsibilities, and have a clear outline of what the expectations are. And it's not always like Nicole and I have had a number of other partnerships for real estate deals and stuff. And there's a noticeable difference when you don't have those things clearly outlined. It's just kind of like whose job is that? Like, who's handling this? Versus when it's clearly outlined, sometimes it's just something to reference back to. What did we agree to at this time? And when something falls through the cracks, like, who's responsible for this? And
So I was going to ask that question, or kind of, sort of, so you're doing the day-to-day
Mhm.
out there grinding, installing, selling. How do you stay humble to the point of not being like, I'm out here doing all the work, Tanner's out selling real estate, I can do this on my own?
Yeah. I don't even think about it. I guess I think about it as like the long term, more or less. It's like, I know, as we grow, like, I know you're going to have to become more of like an avid overseer of things. You know what I mean? I just how I see it. It's like, I'm doing this now. As we grow, like, Tanner's like skill set is going to become way more prominent when we have 5 employees. He's going to be doing like the, you know, I don't know, hiring and firing and I'll see that, but he's going to be the one that's going to be, doing the business side of that, and the contractual side, the legal side. And I'm just going to be going, here's where you're going to be today on this time, and I'm going to teach you how to do it versus,
yeah, and I think a lot of it's personality differences too. Is I have no problem being confrontational, and so there's been a few occasions where I've had to get involved, and Nick will bring stuff to me and say, hey, this person's either not paying up, or, we had a contract with someone that, they weren't fulfilling their end of the contract. And so I had to go and send a couple cease and desist letters and just be a little bit more the enforcer. And whereas I'm sure Nick could figure it out on his own and do that stuff, but it's a little bit easier when he can kind of pass on the brunt of the bad guy to me, and he still gets to be his personality, and, we don't lose the relationship.
Yep.
Well, that you could still act as how we were talking earlier about landlord versus having an agent. Like, you can act as, I'm just a salesman, I'm just the installer, and kind of make Tanner be the bad guy.
Yep.
So
Yep. And
you still get the forward facing, hey, I'm here to help you.
Yep.
So
Exactly. Yeah, no, I agree. And I think because I'm there building that relationship, it's a lot, I feel like it's a little bit more tough for me to be like kind of a nice, like really nice person. So it's tough for me to be, So it's tough for me to be, rough on someone a little. But no, that's a good thing.
especially when Tanner never shows up on time anyway.
But no, I think, I think it works pretty well like that.
Yeah. And I will say that, having a partnership, I agree with the helping a business grow is one, because of those complementary roles, but also because, like he said, my time when I'm needed in the business is different than the time he's needed in the business. And, we implemented the EOS stuff, from Traction, where we have a level 10 meeting every week, and we go over things and bounce ideas off, and he tells me what's working. And I think the big difference there is sometimes when you're doing the day-to-day work, you become so focused on the business that I at least should offer an outside perspective and say, like, let's look at this. Where is this going all together? Because it's more of like the conductor kind of role, where I can come in and make those recommendations, but we come to the decision together.
Yeah.
And that's the big.
the book right there, Stream Ownership, one of the concepts in there is detach, like to step back and detach. And so you're the pseudo detached person, not day to day in the business. So helps.
Right. But like I said, I can fill in when I need to, and I might not be able to, provide the same level of expertise, but I at least know our products enough to be able to talk to someone about it and answer phone calls and say, I really think that, this is a good idea, and let me schedule a time for Nick to come out there. And knowing his schedule, I can say, okay, Nick will be there next week.
I think just the fact that you can continue to nurture the relationship, because like even a lot of contractors, like they might not even respond.
Mm-hmm.
And just having the ability to have communication with somebody saying like, hey, we can't get to you right now, but here's when we can. I mean, I think that says a lot when a lot of people won't even respond to you, or they'll say they're going to be there and they don't. But just having that communication that is continuous is good.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, Nicole's done marketing for some companies and stuff and run ad campaigns where they've gotten a couple hundred leads that just never get contacted. And for us, every single lead is getting the attention, and that's what I say is, we're not doing it with trying to get 10,000 leads in and just filter out the good ones. We'll get 15 leads and Nick will talk to every single one of them and find out what their needs are. And right now time calls for that. It's, makes sense. But,
do you automate that automation?
I think we will. We're still working on that. We're kind of working on, I know you have some systems that we're kind of playing with a little bit to get that set up, and automate that. But, right now it's just me calling them, building the relationship. I think in the beginning right now, I'm more focused on trying to make sure that they know that they're talking to a person, not a computer. And I know you have some stuff that you're working on saying like, it's going to sound like a person that's sending a text message or whatever it is. It's going to be personalized.
Well, and it's a volume thing. And I think any business is like, we're staying small enough, long enough to where he can still have that personalized touch to give them that 5-star service. When we get to the point where there's more leads than he knows what to do with, then there's going to be more systems in place to kind of filter out and nurture them, give them the attention. But where in the background, we'll be finding out what it is they're looking for and decide if they're tire kickers or if they're ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as they're ready to go, then it becomes, a hot lead, ready for him to work. So.
Yep.
Gotcha. So I know Tanner's got an errand to run here shortly, but, you have anything? I mean, it's kind of both of you guys kind of feel like I'm interviewing two people.
Yeah.
But, anything you want to add? Actually, I got one question before I see you out. So you started off in real estate.
Kind of, yeah.
You were going to meetups.
Yeah.
You met Tanner, bought a house hack.
Mm-hmm.
How come, I don't want to say you exited real estate, but you went more the business route than the real estate route? Any strategic reasonings for that, or just happenstance?
No, I mean, I'm still absolutely want to be involved in real estate. I just want to use this as a way to funnel into real estate. I was just sick and tired of having to waste my time on working for somebody else to make money when I could go out and probably make 10x what I was making before. I mean, it's just going to suck for 2 or 3 years while we build it. But once we get it going, I mean, I would be able to put 10x more into real estate than I ever could have working for somebody else.
So you strategic pause, if you will.
Correct. Yeah. It's just, we're going to delay this for a little bit so I can work on this, and then I can use this to funnel into this to really grow wealth.
So you thought your best earning potential was to start a business.
Yes.
And go from there.
Yeah.
To maximize your earning.
Yeah. I always think, the best earning potential for anybody is to be able to invest in themselves, and not in somebody else. But that's my opinion. I don't know.
No, I agree. Well, and I'm curious what systems or softwares you found help with the organization and calendar management and spreadsheets and stuff like that.
I use everything on Google Docs right now. I mean, Google has been fantastic for me. I'm sure as we grow, we're going to need to have, like a CRM, something like that. But right now, I mean, we use just like Wix. I mean, just a simple website thing that tracks like our sales and everything. And it's been working decent. So, but yeah, I'm sure as we grow and we end up adding employees, we're going to probably want to integrate a system where it controls the sales and the employees and the timesheets and all that stuff. So, the least amount of logins I have to have, the better. So
yeah, and I think that's a great point, is that in a startup, focusing on the service provided more than all of, buying the most expensive software and building a $10,000 website and all those things. More important to focus on how much value you're providing to the customer or the client.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that I can say. I mean, the shining views, everyone that we've worked with refers, one or two people, which has been exponentially growing. And so I'm excited to see where it goes this year. And I think as people get more comfortable with this type of technology, it's becoming more and more frequent. It's like trying to hold on to your flip phone when the iPhone came out. It's like that took over the industry. Smart home integration is going to be a part of every single home in America.
Mm-hmm.
And, people that leverage it, they'll gain back their time, the convenience. And I just really see this scaling into a much bigger business.
I think that's where our business is going to come in, is like, there's that disconnect that, like the product is there and people have it, but are they using it? Like, and that's where we're going to step in and be like, here's what we're going to use it for. And here's how we're going to come in and we're going to do this, 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 and this. And it's just going to work. It's just going to, and and then you don't think about it unless you want something else. You know what I mean? And people will actually use the equipment and want more, and actually it'll become more convenient for them. So
very nice. So cool. So if someone's they're watching this and they're like, hey, I want to get this for my house. What's the best way to get a hold of you guys?
Yeah. I mean, you can give us a call, or you can go visit us at, www.myautomationdestination.com. Our email is, sales@myautomationdestination.com. I don't have our phone number. I have it on a card. We got like 7 phone numbers. So, with the other business and stuff, I don't remember what this one exactly is, but, I can get that to you. Also, you can put it on your comments or whatever.
I think we can offer free consultation.
Yeah.
And listen to this podcast.
Yeah.
Code Freedom Fighter.
There you go. Yeah.
I should, I started doing it myself around here and then just quit, and I got a couple, rings, but that's about it. So
Sure.
I
charge for his consult.
Yeah. Right.
I typically hate rings. So
Yeah.
they started off pretty good, and then I feel like the business model changed some, and
Sure.
not as big of a fan as I was when I first got it.
That's, not to take down the whole industry, but the reason that companies like that are so big is their marketing, and they create this community around the products, but the products are not superior. They are subpar to some of the products that we use that are, same price. So that's the big thing is I'm all for taking down the big monopolies, but I think people should do some due diligence, ask the right questions, and figure out what works for them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. On that note, I think we'll get Tanner off to his appointment so he's not late for something else.
Yeah. No, that sounds good. So yeah, you won't have excuses then.
Yeah. Well, thank you again.
Yeah,
Appreciate you
absolutely. I appreciate you having me on, guys.
Yep.
Good.
Cool.
All right.